Story 1. Our pool at the hotel where I work operates officially from 8 a.m. until dusk. However, unofficially, we keep the pool open until 10 p.m. because many youth travel teams stay at the hotel. There are specific reasons for the 10 p.m. closing time, which include giving housekeeping time to clean up for the next day, allowing time for pool chemicals to be added for proper water treatment, and reducing noise complaints from guests in nearby rooms. The pool is located directly underneath several guest rooms, so maintaining quiet hours is important. Out of courtesy, I always give 3 announcements when the pool is getting ready to close at 9 p.m., 9:40 p.m., and 9:55 p.m. I do this to avoid abruptly surprising guests at 10 p.m. with a sudden closure. It's usually a challenge to get both the kids and the inebriated parents out of the pool, but providing a heads up generally works well. This particular evening began like any other. As usual, people were whining and complaining that the pool was closing, but eventually they left, and I locked the gates. About 5 minutes later, a particularly entitled woman, let's call her Karen, approached me and demanded that the pool remain open for another hour. She claimed her group paid good money to stay at the hotel and insisted that her children were disappointed the pool had closed so early. I explained the reasons I mentioned earlier, but that only made her more upset. Naturally, the first thing she said was, "I want to see something official that states the pool hours." At this point, I decided to mess with her overly sensitive emotions just a bit and walked her over to the pool hours sign. I explained, "We know during the summer that kids like to swim later, so instead of closing at dusk, we allow the pool to stay open until 10 p.m. She immediately got worked up and replied, "It doesn't say 10 p.m., it says dusk." I had reached my limit and decided to point out the obvious. I responded, "In most parts of the United States, depending on the time of year, dusk can fall anywhere between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. It's already past 10 p.m., so technically, you got a bonus hour." She insisted she knew what dusk meant and stormed off in frustration. But here's where the twist comes in. Karen marched into the hotel lobby and applied so much pressure on the front desk staff that they came to me and asked if I could open the pool for another hour. I calmly replied, "The gates are locked, and this is the protocol I've been instructed to follow. However, if you decide to unlock the gate, that's your choice, and I will not be involved in that decision." I held no resentment. I always make sure to protect myself by following procedures. Ultimately, the front desk staff chose to take responsibility and reopen the pool. So, in the end, the entitled guest got her way. I didn't say another word about it. I just kept doing my duties and let the situation unfold. I had already gone above and beyond by staying past the regular hours, giving guests multiple reminders, and locking up as instructed. If someone else wanted to take on the responsibility of extending pool time just to appease a difficult guest, that was entirely up to them. Karen strutted back out to the pool area like she had just won a major battle. She loudly told her kids and other parents that she had gotten the pool reopened, clearly proud of herself. The kids jumped back in, and the adults resumed lounging as if nothing had happened. I kept my distance. I didn't want any more confrontations, especially since I had done everything I was supposed to do. I watched from a window just to make sure no one did anything dangerous, and when the front desk agent eventually came back out to lock up the pool again at 11 p.m., everything finally settled down. What frustrated me the most wasn't even Karen's entitled attitude, it was how easily someone like that could manipulate a situation and get what they wanted by causing a scene. Rules were in place for a reason, and I had followed them. Yet, because one guest yelled loud enough, everything got pushed aside to avoid conflict. I get it, front desk staff often have to make judgment calls to keep guests happy, especially when reviews and ratings can impact business. But in this case, it sent a message that yelling and demanding could override hotel policy, and that made my job harder in the long run. The next time someone saw the pool closed, they might try the same thing. Still, I didn't argue or escalate anything further. I had done my part, kept things professional, and made sure I wasn't responsible for bending any rules. As frustrating as it was, I just clocked out, went home, and chalked it up to another story from the front lines of hospitality work. Sometimes, you can't win against entitlement, but you can make sure you don't get blamed when it all goes sideways. Story 2. I work as part of a skeleton crew in a hotel. This means that on any given night, I'm everything from waiter to handyman to the laundry service. Technically, I'm mainly laundry. Because of the current global situation, things have been a bit slow, but we do still get customers. This particular night, we are especially slow, which I'm not complaining about because it gives me the chance to chill while waiting for the laundry to be done. I get a call on the radio to bring towels to a room, which is a pretty common request. I don't think much of it. I take fresh towels from the laundry racks, go to the customer's room, and let them know housekeeping has come with towels. Enter the Karen. These towels don't look very clean. I can assure you they are. I just took them from the laundry room myself. Not good enough. I can get you different towels if you would like. She sort of sneered, but let me go get them. This time I went to the linen closet on the floor. Still fresh new towels, which most people are happy with, but not her. No, she wants fresh towels from the dryer, and she still wants them warm. This lady is on the 3rd floor. The laundry is in the basement. It's unlikely to get them still warm, even if the towels hadn't literally only just gone into the dryer and were sopping wet. If she wanted them that fresh, it would be an hour at least. Not good enough. She wants them now, like I'm hiding them in my back pocket, and I'm just refusing to give her the good stuff. Now is when she says the line, "I want to speak to your manager. The front desk is available on call if you would like." No, your manager. Me too. For those of you at home, my manager had quit in September, and I never got a new one. So the front desk was the closest she was going to get to my manager. Karen did not like this answer and sent me away. I let her know that she would receive her new towels as soon as the dryer was finished with them and walked away. I gave the front desk a heads up that they might encounter Karen and merrily went on my way back to the laundry room. About 5 minutes later, I hear someone in the laundry hall. I'm the only person on shift that would go anywhere near the laundry, so I went to go see what was going on. There was a mask-less Karen trying to sneak into the employee-only area. I shut the door in her face, told her to please put a mask on and stay out of the restricted area. I call the front desk and let them know that Karen is trying to be sneaky and go back to my laundry. 10 minutes after that, the laundry room door opened on the emergency fire escape staircase entrance. Karen had gone around the whole hotel and found the one door to this staircase whose lock had broken, and thought she'd be sneaky again to get to the mysterious towel nirvana. This lady sees me and decides now is the perfect moment to complain to me about the dirty laundry in our dirty laundry room area. I just so happened to be talking to the front desk about a different customer and got the go-ahead for what happened next on the spot. Like I said before, I have many jobs on this skeleton crew. One of them is security. So I get the great pleasure to inform Karen that she is no longer considered a guest in our hotel and has 10 minutes to get her crap and get out. You're not the security, you said you're housekeeping. I, who had been reading way too much Reddit, replied, "Look at me. I am the security now. We can get your stuff and leave nicely, or you get to take a nice ride with the police who are stationed down the road." It gave me so much pleasure to wave cheerily from the lobby as this lady drove away, without her towels, which had just finished drying. Story 3. This is a long one, but I have to set the stage. My 3rd grade teacher, Mr. White, looked a lot like Stanley Tucci. Unlike the acting range that Stanley Tucci's characters have, Mr. White had 2 modes, calm and insane. He was the first teacher I ever had that would scream at us. And I don't mean raise his voice and tell us to be quiet. I mean a red-faced, crazy guy on the street corner at midnight screaming in your face. Being the naive 8-9-year-olds that we were, we just fearfully went with it. It was always over benign stuff, too. He loved to single kids out for minor things that irritated him. You talk while he's talking, he would get right in your face and tell you how you've ruined the lesson. then have the class sit in silence for 20 minutes. One time, 2 kids were having a ruler fight, holding their rulers like swords and pretending to battle in slow motion. Mr. White ran up, snatched both rulers from their hands, snapped them in half across his knee, and dropped the pieces to the floor. Many children shed tears in his class. My biggest mistake was letting a pencil accidentally roll off of my desk and hit the floor during a lesson. I vaguely remember him saying beforehand that we played too much with our pencils. Well, that set him off, and I was sent outside, not to the principal's, just outside the door to stand in the rain to think about it. Oh, and he threw a whiteboard eraser at my friend Jared, which we laugh about to this day, but I see a bit of repressed trauma in Jared's poor little eyes when we do. Eventually, parents begin to catch wind and wonder why their kids were coming home crying. So the principal was contacted multiple times, and by the end of the year, Mr. White's outbursts weren't as frequent, but he was still super volatile. So the last day of class comes and Mr. White says he has a fun treat for us. He's going to sit in a chair at the front of the class and we get to line up, face the class and do impressions of him. He says we can make fun of him and his funny little quirks. He wasn't a demon 24/7. He did little things like say, "I'm not me until I've had my coffee," and step outside to pass gas because he didn't want to poison us. And he always had to wipe his glasses off, but couldn't find his lens cleaners. Ha, how quirky. And when the other kids got up and started pretending to be Mr. White, that's mostly the kind of stuff they touched on in their fun little ways. He smiled. The kids laughed. How cute. Well, I was about 10th in line, and I had a different idea. It was my turn, and when I got up to the front, I turned to one of the more abused kids in the class and screamed at the top of my lungs, "Jared, if you don't put that crap down, you will be out of my class forever. And Amelia, you need to shut your freaking mouth now, I'm sick of you," and just absolutely went off, pretending to throw crap, etc. The class loved it. Mr. White immediately turned into Mr. Red, but he couldn't say a damn thing about it because he was already on thin ice. Plus, we were moving on from his class anyway, and he knew it was all true. I think the most surprising thing to him was that I was one of the quietest kids that whole year. All he could do was fake a smile, but goddamn, he actually looked pissed. The best part is, my imitation got such a kick that a few other kids that went after me did the same thing, just imitating his insane rants and mannerisms, and he had to sit there and take it because it's literally what he asked us to do, act like him. In the final goodbye to his students, he didn't say a word to me, and I was too scared to even approach him. I hope he isn't teaching anymore because he is a true terrifying presence to children. Maybe throwing his little fun exercise back in his face made him get a Thorazine prescription or seek therapy. God knows he needed it. Story 4. So I used to work as a cashier in a supermarket. This story took place on my 4th day of work there, and my 2nd day working at a register on my own, without a supervisor sitting next to me teaching me the ropes. Yes, I had 2 days of basic training. I'm sure most of you will figure out which country I live in from the following explanation. It will become relevant later. Supermarkets in my country are a zoo on a regular day. However, Thursdays and Fridays are absolute mayhem at the store and are a special kind of chaos. On Fridays, the store closes 2 hours before sundown, as do most stores in this country. During winter, this means around 2 p.m., and in summer closer to 4:30 p.m. People get frantic on Fridays trying to get all their shopping done and get home in time to cook dinner. If you can avoid coming to the store on Friday, please do so at all costs. I always told people that after this experience, the reason Thursdays are chaotic is because we get all the customers who don't want to come on Friday. Now, this was early evening on a Thursday, at a time when the store was absolutely jam-packed. We had 10 checkout lines open, and every line had at least 6 to 7 people in it. Basically, if you were stuck with a slow cashier, there was nowhere else to go unless you had 10 items or fewer. Everything was going well until I got a customer with 2 shopping carts full of items, mostly non-perishable goods, and these were the large carts you find in big stores in the United States, like Walmart. I found out later that he buys these for a community center in his neighborhood and fills up their pantry twice a year. Nice guy. He greeted me very politely and then said the most dreaded words I could have heard that night. This will be a delivery. Just a quick break from the story to explain why this was so dreaded, especially on a day like today. When we get a delivery, the cashier calls a helper from the store to assist with bagging the groceries. Usually, people do their own bagging. The bags are then placed in plastic containers, and those containers are stacked and taken to the back fridge until delivery. A regular delivery usually involves between 3 to 5 crates. Each crate has a number, which I then have to input into the computer, along with the correct delivery address and phone number. I also print out the receipt and place copies in the crates. Even for a small delivery, this always takes extra time. Back to the story. This guy has 2 full carts and wants a delivery. I say, sure, no problem. Then I turn to everyone else in line and let them know that this is a delivery and it will take just a bit longer than usual, and I apologize for any delay this may cause. We always do this so customers will be aware of the delay and can move to another line if they are in a hurry. This is when the whole line groans simultaneously. I don't blame them. There was nowhere else to go. I could see everyone craning their necks to check out other lines, but they all decided to stay. So I start scanning as fast as I can. I'm pretty good with numbers, so even though it's my 4th day, I remember many of the codes and things are moving rather quickly. I get to a point where the bagger can't keep up with all the items, and the area to the left of me, where I place all the scanned items, is just a mountain of cans and bags of chips and whatnot. I can't even scan another item because they are falling back onto my scale. At this point, I stop and ask if he wants help bagging. The customer and the bagger are both appreciative, and I help bag groceries for a few minutes, just enough to clear some space so I can continue scanning items. This happens every few minutes. It gets full, I stop to help, clear some space, and keep going. This is where the entitled customer comes into play. She is maybe in her early 40s, with long brown hair, and doesn't look like your stereotypical entitled customer. Except for the way she was standing, with one hand on her hip extended so far to the side, I wasn't sure how she was still standing. She was in my line, about 5 to 6 people back. This is the conversation that followed. Customer, hello? What are you doing? Me, not answering because I didn't think she was talking to me. I keep scanning. Customer, excuse me? What kind of cashier are you? Why aren't you doing your job? Stop being lazy and do your job. She screams at the top of her lungs. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm just trying to... Customer, that's not your job. You are a cashier. Do your job. Do your job. I realize now, after reading so many stories online, that this would have been a perfect opportunity for some passive-aggressive compliance. I'm sure some of you hope that I did just what she wanted. Too bad I didn't know about it then, or that it was only my 4th day on the job. That's not what happened, although I dream sometimes that I did just that. Sit back and sip my coffee until there was space cleared for more scanned items. You know, be a cashier. Maybe next time. Me, I'm just helping to move things along faster. If this is a problem, or you are in a hurry, feel free to move to another line. I'm sure another cashier will be more than happy to serve you. I may sound rude with this line, but I said it really nicely, not sarcastic at all. Obviously, that didn't help. Customer not listening anyway, and not having any of it. Just do your job. You are a cashier. What is wrong with you? Are you silly? You should be fired. I stop listening at this point and don't answer as I'm still helping to bag and scan as fast as possible, knowing it's not going to help anyway. However, I see one of my managers, let's call him Joe, walk up to her. Joe is great, by the way, always helping the workers. Joe, what seems to be the problem? Customer still yelling. Your cashier is awful. She is lazy and not doing her job. You should fire her. Tell her to do her job. She's not doing her job. She repeated that a few times, like a broken record. Joe looks over at me for a second, understands exactly what is happening, turns to her, and says, Can't you see she's trying to help? She's trying to make this go much faster. Now she starts screaming more words, I assume, but I couldn't really make them out. She was practically foaming at the mouth. Joe tries to calm her down by explaining or trying to how me bagging items is actually helping, and this makes her even more upset, if you can believe it. Spit flying from her mouth, arms flailing, screaming like someone in complete meltdown. Suddenly, I notice an older woman, a nice older lady, must have been around 80 years old, trying to get her attention by tapping her on the shoulder. It takes a few tries, but she finally gets her attention and spins her around by the shoulder. Nice older lady, hey, excuse me. Customer, what? Nice older lady, your daughter is crying. This is when the entire store seemed to have stopped talking all at once, like someone pressed mute and turned off the volume. The sea of people in front of me parts a bit, and we all look down and see a little girl, who couldn't have been older than 4, clutching her mother's thighs, bawling her eyes out, with snot coming out of everywhere, hyperventilating. This girl was terrified, and I can't blame her. Seeing her mother lose control like that must have been overwhelming. She had no idea what was happening. She was in a huge store, surrounded by strangers, practically invisible. This silence lasted an entire 2 seconds, because that's when the customer started yelling at Joe again. Customer, look what you did. You and your unhelpful cashier made my daughter cry, and a bunch of other chaotic sounds that were perhaps supposed to be words. Things happened in slow motion for the next few seconds. She started to swing towards Joe. Joe is not a big guy, but he's bigger than the customer, that's for sure. And he's not easily intimidated. This was clearly not his first encounter with someone like her. She would have hit him square in the face if the nice older lady hadn't grabbed her in a bear hug to stop her. Yes, she did. I had to pick my jaw up off the floor. At that point, other customers got involved, trying to peel the nice older lady off of the customer and stop her from attacking Joe. Joe, by this point, was visibly fuming. That's when mall security stormed into the store. Our store was inside a mall, and a sea of people surrounded the customer. I couldn't really see much of anything anymore. It looked like one of those football pile-ups when players dive onto a fumbled ball. Judging by the sound of yelling getting farther and farther away, I figured the customer was being led either to the back office or to the mall security office, the mall's holding area. This entire time all this was happening, I kept bagging and scanning items. I was only halfway through this customer's purchase. I finished up with him without any more problems. He was very kind and thanked me profusely for helping with the bags, even though technically it wasn't part of my job. He said I was the fastest and nicest cashier he had ever had the pleasure of meeting. I was just happy to help. No one else in my line complained. In fact, I actually got compliments from people about keeping my composure. Apparently, many cashiers in my country think it's okay to yell at customers and be rude. I had worked in customer service for many years before and have never yelled at a customer, even if they deserved it. Once the rush died down a bit, I went for a break. I met another employee in the back room and started to tell him what had just happened, but he cut me off. She was yelling at you. Ha 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 ha. I heard that. Well, everyone heard that, but I had no idea what was happening. He told me that the police had been called and the customer was escorted out of the store and the mall in handcuffs. I filled him in on everything, and we spent the next 30 minutes laughing. I don't know what happened with the child. I'm assuming they called another family member to pick her up. I also don't know what happened with a customer after that, since I ended up working there for another year and I never saw her again. Hopefully, she learned to do her grocery shopping on Tuesday or Wednesday, or perhaps she ended up with some legal consequences. This was the first entitled customer I had the displeasure of meeting while working at that store, but definitely not the last. Story 5. So this is just a warning, but this happened literally years ago, so some of the details are a bit fuzzy to me. Sorry about that, but I figured I'd post it anyways since I'm sure someone will enjoy it, so I'll just tell you how I remember it. Here's the setup of what happened. I was a 15-year-old boy at the time, in the Police Explorers. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty much the Scouts except geared towards helping youth learn about police and eventually getting a career in law enforcement. My father was a patrol sergeant at the local constable office, so he was a supervisor. The constable was close with most of his officers and was a family friend. He had known me since I was around 6. I was in an explorer's uniform, so I did kind of look like an officer, but I was obviously too young. We had just gotten back from the explorers and stopped by the station so he could take care of something real fast. I don't remember what, and so I waited in the front of the station for him. I sat down and put on a pair of earbuds to waste time waiting for my father. About 3 minutes in, I feel that uncomfortable feeling you get when someone stares at you for a while, so I look up and see her. It was the dreaded Karen, ridiculous dyed bob and all. I take out my earbuds and look up asking, "Do you need something from me, miss?" Karen scoffed at me and said, "Finally, you shouldn't be on your phone on the job." She stops to look at my name on the uniform. "I'm going to have a chat with your supervisor after this." I was a little confused seeing as I am obviously too young to be a cop, but felt like I could clear this up pretty fast. I make the mistake of stopping her. "Ma'am, I'm a police explorer, not a—" She snapped at me. "Don't you interrupt me. I want to file a report, so go behind the desk and do your job." I look at her with a "you have got to be kidding me" look and decide I don't want to deal with this. I decided to wait for my dad outside instead. I start to walk off. Admittedly, another mistake on my part. Karen is a bit taken aback at first, but recovers fast and follows me, yelling and screaming about how rude I am for walking away from her, and how she's going to have my badge for treating her this way. "Yeah, sure lady, take my explorer's badge." Right before I got out, one of my dad's friends walked in. My dad's coworker one. "Hey, where's your dad? I need to talk to him." Of course, the instant he showed up, Karen jumped on him and started going off about how I wasn't doing my job, and I was rude. He stopped her. "Ma'am, he's not an officer, he's a police explorer." She stops and tries to process what he said, and fails to do so. Maybe she just didn't know what an explorer was. "Who cares? It's his job to help me. Do you know who I am?" The legendary response. Coworker 1 decided to drop trying to explain what a police explorer was and just decided to defuse the situation. No, I don't. "Look, ma'am, if you have a problem or concern, you should go to the front desk. They should be able to help you better." At this point, this is obviously causing a scene, and another of my dad's coworkers pulls me aside as coworker 1 tries to deal with her. Coworker 2, "What's going on here?" she asked me as we went a bit further away from them. Me? "Well, miss, I was sitting here waiting for my dad, and this lady," I gestured towards her, "started going off on me for being rude and not doing my job." I did the air quotes. My dad's coworker 2 looks at me, then back over to Karen and coworker 1. "Honey, I'm sure my coworker will take care of this. Do you want to wait in the back for your dad?" I say yes and follow her to the back. About 3 or so minutes in, my dad comes out and sees me sitting in the back waiting for him with his coworker. "Dad, hey, what's my kid doing back here? Did something happen?" "Yeah, there was a woman up front harassing him, so I took him back here to wait." My father talked to his coworker and said he'll take care of it. He walks off to let the constable know about the disturbance up front and not to worry about it. Then comes back a few minutes later. He took me up front to leave. The woman saw me and my father about to walk out and made a beeline towards us, completely blowing off coworker 1 as she did. "Karen, excuse me, are you a supervisor?" My father, who literally towers over her, looks down at this Karen. "Yes, do you need something, miss?" "Yes, I would like to have a talk with you about your officer's attitude." My father looked down to me. I nodded at him as if to say this is her. My dad was about to have a talk with her, but then the constable came up front. "Constable, come to my office," he said to me in a commanding voice. I looked up to my dad a bit worried now. "Dad, go ahead." He gently pushed me in the constable's direction. So I walk over to the constable and follow him to his office. Karen looked pleased, thinking I was in trouble, then turned back to my father. The constable and I sat down in his office, and I looked at him confused. He says, "Your dad told me what's going on. I didn't want you to have to deal with her. My wife made some cookies. Would you like some?" Me? Sure. I went ahead and took a few, thanking him. We sat in the office for about 2 minutes. Then the constable took me out front. At this point, Karen seemed pretty upset, obviously because my father talked her down. So I walked over to my father, and he went to talk with coworker 1 for a bit. As this was happening, Karen decided to go to the constable and started to complain. He interrupted her and told her something about how I was clearly a teenager, not a police officer, and even if I was an officer, she was out of line for treating his officers and me the way she did. If she needed something, she would have to go to the front desk like everyone else. I'm not sure what happened to her after that, as we left the station pretty quickly after my dad talked to his coworker and Karen didn't come outside.